Okay, so yeah, so welcome to everybody, people who are on this call right now with us and people who are going to be listening to the recording. And I would just like to invite Mr. Stephen Desborough to introduce himself to this group. And we thought that we would create this space, as many coaches and lots of people have been doing, to sort of invite people to come into a space of connection and a space of reflection. And that's really what we wanted to do this evening as well. So yes, Steve, please tell us a little bit about you.
Hi, thanks, Amanda. Yeah, my name's Steve. I came across this extraordinary understanding. When I say extraordinary understanding, it's even interesting that it would appear to me, if I heard someone say that, an extraordinary understanding, oh, it's something that I need to get, which I think that's where I came from. But really, we're going to be pointing towards an understanding of the mind this evening. I came across it about 10 years ago. I was working as a coach prior to that for a couple of years. And you go on all these courses, you hear about different things and you hear about the latest thing. And I thought, oh, well, this is the latest thing. It's the 3 principles. I need to know about that. And that was 10 years ago. And that's a beloved friend that I've become very, very close to. And it's such a profound and simple understanding. And right now, with what's going on in the world, there couldn't be a more apt or relevant time for us to open up our arms and our hearts and to share something that we think at worst could be helpful and at best could be extraordinarily profound during these troubled or challenging times. So Amanda and I are dear friends. We've been on this journey together around these principles, along with other people that I've seen their names on the coming up on the call. And it just kind of makes sense to us to be able to reach out to people, to you guys. And, you know, as you so rightly said, Amanda, it's for us to create a space. For us to create a space for reflection and connection. And I'd just like to put a couple of caveats into the conversation. Firstly, if you are new to this, it might be a little bit itchy for you at times with some of the things that we might be talking about. But if you're aware of that, hopefully you can be more okay with that, because it certainly was very, very itchy and uncomfortable for me when I came across this, because it went in the face of everything that I believed, how life works, how my mind works, how everything works. And so that's a caveat that I would like to offer. And secondly, not to believe anything we say, but just to kind of ponder and reflect. And kind of be open to what we're pointing to. But also, and possibly, well, most importantly, is just to be aware of the feeling that might come across over the next hour. Now, how that feeling is going to be, I don't know, but I'm kind of guessing it might be in a certain direction. And that's what we're going to be pointing towards. That's what we're going to be looking at. Is with everything that's going on in the most extraordinary circumstances I've ever seen in my life, how there's still the opportunity, the freedom to experience a peacefulness, a calmness, a presence. And I really hope you guys get something from this call. And if you do, wonderful. And if you don't, it must be Amanda's fault.
Another hour of your life wasted.
Absolutely.
So, thank you, Steve. And it's lovely.
Would you like to introduce yourself, Amanda?
Yeah, sure, because I'm sure there's a few people on here that I don't know, although I feel I know most. So I'm Amanda A.Shedd. I'm the loving life coach from the Serendipity experience. I live in Spain in a town called Javier, and I was just telling people that we're in the experience of our lock-in or our lockdown, and so we're probably a week ahead or so of people who are in the UK with this experience of what we call the coronavirus. So pointing to, there's a couple of things that I wanted to point to off of the work that I've been doing off of the last sort of 8 years, I suppose. And that is that I came across an understanding, like Steve was pointing to, of how the mind works, of how our thinking and feeling system works. And that's commonly known as the inside-out understanding, or the 3 principles. And when I came across that, it had a real profound life change for me. It really, really did. It suddenly, the way I saw life changed. And that wasn't for me that I had big problems or anything like that, because I hadn't. I was a happy lady, but I had an extremely busy mind, really, really busy. And I think one of the biggest gifts of seeing what we would call this understanding, what this pointed out for me, was it gave me a language to talk about love. And that for me is what I love talking about. So, we want to spread the love here on this call today, and continue to do so in the world. But I also got to really understand separate realities. And that was huge for me, to get an understanding of how I created what I would call my own reality. So they were big things for me. And seeing now what's sort of happening at this very moment on the planet, I'm really interested to know with people on this call, because I got a bit curious the other day of speaking about, maybe we should hold a call, and this could be really helpful for people that are experiencing panic and fear and overwhelm and all these things. But my actual personal experience is that's not what I've actually seen. I haven't actually seen that in my personal friends and situations and people around me. So then I got curious, is that just because I hang out in this world with people, most of my life now is with people who have already had a taste of this, because, well, if they come anywhere near me, that's kind of what they hear. Or so is that why? Is that because the people that are in my life do already have an understanding? And I spoke to people that are local to me, who have said actually how calm it is out in the, there's this setup here, like we're only allowed to go out one person at a time. There's only 20 people at a time allowed into the supermarkets, one of the supermarkets, and how actually everybody is showing this sort of calmness. And there's this great like Spanish spirit where everybody is sort of singing on their balconies, and every night everybody's going out and singing and clapping and giving praise to the hospital staff and workers. And there's what I have seen, or what I've experienced, hasn't been actually this sort of fear, or it's actually been quite exciting. And I thought that might sound really weird to people, but my truth of it is, it's like, wow, I feel like, wow, I called it a gift and a shift yesterday. Like, this is a gift and a shift. It feels like people are slowing down, people are maybe you've got time to listen. I got very excited, like, wow, we really need to get going with what we're sharing, because the excuses that people are so busy suddenly, like maybe they've got all these hours in the day. I got very excited for the planet having this breathing space. And you've heard, I'm sure you've all heard and listened to poems and all these beautiful things that are going around, of how they're seeing the blue skies in China, or how they've seen dolphins and fish and things in the Venice canals, and there's a real sort of space and to breathe for the planet. So I got really, really excited about that. And then I had all sorts of other I got really drawn into it for a while, but I was quite enjoying it. It was quite dramatic. I think it was St. Patrick's Day, so it's Tuesday, and like, you know, I kept thinking like, there's all this stuff I was meant to do, but actually I was having quite a lot of fun on my phone in all the WhatsApp groups I was in, and the banter and the videos and the jokes and the things that people were making. It was so interesting for me. So I'm really curious to know of people on this call, like, actually, are you experiencing, you know, are you experiencing that there is this kind of calm? I'm just going to read the messages as well. Or are you experiencing that people are up in arms? And what are you experiencing yourself? So I want to invite people to just sort of unmute themselves one at a time, if you've got anything to share there of how this experience has been for you. And I'm going to have a look at the chat. Don't all rush at once, okay?
Yeah. While we're waiting, I'll just give a little insight into, you know, how I've been over the last couple of weeks, since this has really kind of gathered momentum over here. And it's, again, you use the word interesting, and it's fascinating to me how 1 minute I can be like, it feels like, whoa, you know, whoa, what's going on? It's overwhelming feeling of concern, of uncomfortable, of uncertainty. And yet I can just have the other end of the spectrum of quiet, of presence, of gratitude, of kind of being more aware of looking out for other people. And so it's so interesting how I can go from one to the other. Now, I'm sure on some level, to lesser or greater degrees, you guys would have been experiencing something similar. But where this leads me to is, I would have been, if I was listening to this call at the beginning or getting curious around, you know, what we're talking about here, I'd have been like, well, if this is your job, surely you shouldn't be going to both extremes. Surely you should just be living in the peaceful. But that's not what we're looking to point out. That's not what we're looking to share. We're not trying to get you to feel good, happy, present, connected, positive, resilient all the time. We're kind of showing you more about how it works, and however you feel is absolutely fine. And it's very easy for us to want to feel differently than how we do. I'm feeling panicked, I'm worried, what's going to happen? Goodness knows what's going to my business, to my family. Can I go out? Can I go out? Where am I going to buy all these provisions? What's going to happen? And not to want to have that. Well, the fact is having that experience is uncomfortable. But not wanting to have it. Why am I having this? I don't want to feel like this. I need to change. What's the matter with me? I need to think differently. That's just adding more logs to the fire. And that keeps us stuck in a place of uncertainty and concern. So the only difference I can see for me, which was when I was going from there to there, and I still will do, is that I'm not trying to change it. If I'm feeling panic right now, that's fine. I don't have to do anything. In fact, I don't want to do anything to change that. And that's something we're going to be talking possibly about today, or maybe in another one, but in a little bit of a deeper way. And something that I would like to offer out to you guys is your input in this, because this is just my experience. You know, and Amanda rightly said, you know, separate realities, which we will be talking about, I guess, as well. But we want to hear from you guys. You know, what's troubling you? You know, you're going to be having a completely different experience to me. I'm having a completely different experience to Amanda. But we want to find out what's going on for you and seeing if we can point you back to your innate resilience, your innate well-being.
Steve, can I just ask you before you go, what can I ask you to explain how you would explain the word resilience? Because that's what we called this call, you know, your innate resilience in uncertain times. Can you just clarify what you mean by the word innate resilience?
Well, firstly, I'd like to go back to, again, when I was introduced this, and it's one of those things that I've been around for 10 years, and the more I know, the more I realise how little I know. But at the beginning, people talking about innate resilience, innate well-being, I was like, what? What are you talking about? You don't know my life. You don't know anything about me. How can you talk about that? That's ridiculous. You might have innate resilience, but innate resilience for me now is something that's built into us. It's the most beautiful gift. And it's all around us. It's something that you've been doing and connecting to and accessing all your life. You've just not maybe realized. A child trips over when they're learning to walk. They don't just give up. They just get up and do it again and get up and do it again. Or when they're learning to talk, they don't just go, oh, this talking lark, it's not for me. I can't talk, you know. And kids just keep going. And this beautiful innate resilience, it just shows up in an infinite amount of ways. It's not something that I need to do. In fact, the doing would take me away from it. It's just something to see that I already am.
There's just something really super helpful for me of realizing that these, you know, I know there's a few iHeart facilitators who are on this call, and when we talk about this stuff with the children, we talk about the raw materials of being human. We talk about these innate qualities, one of which, you know, is resilience, that are inside of us. Like you said, we were born with them. They've always been with us. They'll never go away. They're inside every single one of us. They're part of us. They're part of our makeup as a human being. It's not something that we have to, because I think the way that we talk about resilience is a little bit different than sometimes, you know, the general world is. We're not saying that we've got to fight through the storm or fight through the war. We're talking about this natural ability that we have to bounce back from whatever life is playing, and at times like this, realizing that we've got resilience inside of us, for me, it really brings back that thing of the oneness of life, that we've, you know, it's not that we have to have this self-resilience. We've got this resilience of creation. We've got this resilience of nature. That I really feel that. It's like, for me, realizing my own innate resilience means that I don't feel alone in times like this, and that's super helpful for me. That's really, really, really helpful for me. So, like you, I would love to hear from everybody else. I just wanted to clear that up because that was our title, right? Innate resilience in terms of in uncertain times, or whatever we called it. But I would love to read out just a couple of messages first for people who have written messages in the chat that I would like to just sort of, so we just get a gist. With someone saying we're just settling into a new routine, and we feel that we're lucky to be together, so loneliness is not a problem. Similar to you, Amanda, I have lots of WhatsApp groups and we've been all sending some fun messages. However, I am very worried about the crazy people who are just out for themselves, shouting at pharmacists and stockpiling toilet rolls. Somebody else said we have mixed emotions, like Stephen says. It can be very overwhelming being all together all the time, trying to keep the 3 kids going and work, etc. Sometimes it's lovely having time to do everything with them, but sometimes it is just too much, and not being able to go out to clear the head is hard. We love the outdoors, and the loss of that is hard. So that's something that us guys here in Spain, you know, the schools closed a week ago, and to have children at home, it's fun, right? At first, it's like the first week of Christmas holidays or whatever. But being told you can't go out for a walk unless you've got a dog. You know, dogs have never been so popular. It's like, you know, so, and you can go out one at a time, sort of thing. But it's so interesting what's been happening over here. I had such anxiety Tuesday, which overwhelmed me. I realize now that I was trying to fight it, which made it overwhelm me. I also reached for the vino, which was not helpful. But I totally get that, right? Like, I totally get that is, you know, that is what we do in these times. That it feels like that makes it easier. It certainly felt like that for me. You know, I don't really drink so much these days, but I've drunk more this last week than I've drunk. And not that it's a lot, but it just feels like it takes the edge off, and it feels like, oh, no one's driving, no one's, you know, we've not get up for anything. It just feels like, oh, that was really nice. I really feel for people in this time who have actually got habits that maybe are more unhealthy than they realize, or they've got addictions, and suddenly, you know, they're not able to sort of carry out what they were doing in secrecy before. I took the dog for a walk the other day, just up to the bins, and I saw a young girl out smoking, and I thought, oh, I wonder if, like, no one knows she smokes, you know. And suddenly you're on lockdown. It's like you're not to go out, and like all these stories that are coming out from people who are finding themselves in a position that they were never in, like a week ago. So very, very interesting. I think there's some great points there in those chats, especially of seeing that, if we're trying to be a certain way or think that we have to be a certain way, it's really quite helpful to realize, no, we don't have to be, that we can have the experience of whatever we are experiencing in the moment. Because what we want to point you to on this call tonight is that the feelings that you're experiencing are not coming from the lockdown or from the coronavirus or from the situations or the events. Feelings only ever come from one place, and that's thought in the moment. So, you know, that's huge when we see it like this. All these people on this call, I don't know how many people are on here, but there's 20 or more people who have all got a separate reality of how this is playing out. So thank you, guys.
Can I just mention something with regards to that? Now, we're in the grips of this virus, but would you agree that we're all having a different experience of that? Can you imagine, is everyone feeling the same way about it? And yet coronavirus is exactly the same. So how is it that one minute we can probably be playing with your kids and having fun or going for a walk or cooking some dinner, and then the next minute be concerned, freaking out and worried? And yet nothing's actually changed. And how is it that we can have 20 odd people on this call, or maybe 7 billion people in the world, and yet everyone is going to be having their own unique experience of this. And I can't think of anything else in my life where everyone's got an opinion. And we get very wedded to our opinion and our beliefs. And that's not wrong. But again, it's just understanding how that is. And people, you know, arguing and fighting over what they believe and what they've heard, and this is rubbish, no, this is important, or there's nothing wrong with that. But the more we get to understand what's behind that, what creates that, I find myself to be so much less wedded to what's going on in my mind, to my experience. I'm more present just to what's going on for me in this moment. Oh, I'm freaking out. Oh, okay. Oh, I'm feeling pretty calm. And you kind of, it's just so fascinating to watch it unravel.
Hi, Claire.
Hi, what you just said there about watching it unravel, and for me, that's been how it is. It's been really fun. It's been really strange. I've got loads of things done. I've been clearing out the chicken coop this afternoon. Yeah, it's just been a really nice experience. But I think because I have an understanding, I'm quite happy to let it unravel. And I was watching the news in the UK this morning, and there was a doctor and a psychologist. And the psychologist said that it's really important in times like this, when we're in lockdown, you know, as the UK may soon be, to make sure that you spend time doing things that you enjoy. You know, don't waste this time. This is a gift. And I thought that was a really lovely thing to say, and absolutely in total agreement with that, and due to pick the guitar up again soon and crack on where I left off a little while ago. But what she said at the end of it was, that then gives us back some control. And it just hit me like really hard, that what she was saying was that we need to keep control. You know, we have to have some control over this situation. And for me, it's completely opposite. You know, just not having control and being okay with that, and just letting whatever's going to happen. And I also see the human constructs of our daily lives that we wouldn't in any other way perhaps get a glimpse that they are just that, just constructs, are beginning to fall away. You know, or especially women going and having their nails done. I have purposely not brushed my hair this morning, and I'm still in my pajamas and I'm feeling great. I never do that. I never ever do it. Somebody's going to see me, and then tonight I was thinking, should I get changed for this? You know, and then I just thought, no, you know, it's what it is. And through all that thing of still being okay, you know, as the constructs are falling away, you know, so we may not have loo roll soon, so we may have to go back to wiping up bums with newspaper, but even then we're still going to be okay. And I think, you know, it's an experience. It's almost like we're being gifted a beautiful experiment to watch, you know, because most people will never have this opportunity to see how, when everything else falls away, what we're actually left with.
No, thank you very much.
That is so, you know, that's so lovely. There's just another couple of comments, and I know a few people have had to go, and that's great. But I have, I think this is from my Alice. She says she gets a lot of bad jokes from my mum about the virus. She says, except for that, I see this as exciting and can't wait to see what will unravel. This will just be a memory soon. That's so true. And Tanya says, these times are like none we have ever experienced before in our lifetimes. It is very worrying for a lot of people, but I'm hopeful that it will be, long term, create a better sense of community. And Sam said she had to go, but thanks so much. Love you guys. Leanne sent her love. And Debbie says, in London, it seems like a real mix of people. as someone else has just posted. Some are out for themselves, but there is lots of love from many people. And I think this situation has given us a real opportunity to think about how we live our lives and what matters to us. There will be much more love in the world when we recover. And that is true, right? You know, I think humans are at their best when they're in times of crisis. That's what I see. In this little town that we've been in, that we live in here, when we've had big fires, we've had floods, we've had all sorts of things, that's the time when people have, you know, been sort of opening their doors, so to speak. Of course, now they can't do that because they're all closing their doors. But I mean, so it's so interesting. But what has been created very, very quickly, what happened, what I'd say in about 24 hours, was things like these calls were appearing, yoga teachers, Pilates teachers, exercise teachers, everybody online creating stuff free. That was a big thing. Free. Everybody was like, right, they all wanted to do it for free. So there's something about the, you know, what's the saying, the phoenix rises from the ashes. You know, when something happens, it is an opportunity for us to see that we do know this stuff deep down inside. What we want to talk a little bit about, we do know that deep down inside we are all one, and we're powerful, and we're, you know, together we have got this inner strength that can shine, and this is an opportunity to really let it shine. I've got a question for people on this call. Is anybody here actually sort of got anybody in their families that have experienced, or do you know anybody that's actually had the coronavirus, or has got it now, or has got symptoms, or any of that?
Yes.
Who's that?
It's Sarah.
Hello, Sarah.
Hi.
Hi. So have you...
So obviously we've not been tested because you can't be tested, but a couple of weeks ago, well, last week actually, my daughter come down with the symptoms quite severely. And obviously we called the professionals and they were just like, yeah, just treat it that you have got it, or that might be unlikely that you have, which then went on to a few days later me getting it, and now my other daughter's come down with it. So we've actually been locked in for a bit now, and we're all quite, well, we're getting better, apart from my other daughter who's just got it, but we're all sort of getting better now. But I just as an example, my daughter, who has been shut in for over a week now, has just started doing like things like puzzles and stuff, and actually being at home and just going back to sort of basics of not worrying about anything, not, you know, just at home. And I think it took her back to a place, as it has all of us, where you're not, obviously the virus is very worrying, and for us it's been okay if we've had it, but just going back to a place of I suppose simple life, wow, which has been really, really lovely. And I'm a bit with you, Amanda, you know, the whole, it's almost, exciting is probably the wrong word, but with all this going on, I'm excited the fact that people can actually get back to being maybe themselves, helping other people, forgetting about, you know, all this rubbish that goes on, and just getting back to basics. I'm quite excited for that to happen. And I feel that this maybe has happened for that reason. I don't know. But
well, thanks for sharing, Sarah. And, you know, that's first-hand experience. So you're the first person I know who's had this. And I think it's so true. I always remember a Michael Neal metaphor. And he said that if you can picture a light bulb on a table, big round bulbous light bulb on a table in a very, very dark black room, and the whole room is being lit up.
Oh, look at the cat on the screen.
Oh, sorry, you probably didn't get that.
That's the cat's bum.
Go on, boy. Always tries to steal the show. And this light is our true essence, is who we are, is this innate well-being, is this innate resilience, is the magnificence of us. And over days and weeks and months and years of our life, we put these very thin silk handkerchiefs over there. So we've got a little pale blue one and a green one. And eventually, the more you put these, and these handkerchiefs represent our beliefs, our concerns, our fears. And the more we put these on, the light bulb seems to lose its power. The room becomes duller. The light bulb's still the same, it's being covered up by these handkerchiefs. And what I heard you saying, Sarah, was in some way that these handkerchiefs are just coming away and it's taking us back to who we really are.
Yeah.
And I thought you explained it really well, so thank you for doing that.
Could I just add on a positive, just on experiences of who actually gets this and what's happening to people. My niece's dad had symptoms. He wasn't confirmed that he actually had it, but at the time it was extremely worrying because he was in one of the vulnerable groups, not for age, but for health reasons. So that was extremely worrying, obviously, with the advice that was going out. But, you know, really happy to say he's totally recovered and, you know, he's absolutely fine. And I think those kind of messages need to get out, don't they? As people get very concerned. And my partner, he has asthma. So I think that was one of the things that was contributing to my anxiety earlier in the week. But, you know, we will be okay. We will be okay if we all take the right precautions, like you would in any kind of illness.
It's funny, isn't it? Because as we start to hear, so this was something that was invisible. This was something that was just an idea. This is something that was a suggestion. This was something that most of us generally hadn't heard about 3 months ago. You know, it didn't exist in our world. The vocabulary we're using today didn't exist in my vocabulary, like, you know, 2 weeks ago. So there's been this sort of shift. Somebody else on the call, Trish, is just saying that she's got somebody in Ireland who has that you know, they've got positive diagnosis and he's very sick at the moment, a friend's dad, and he's like sleeping 20 hours a day and he's very uncomfortable breathing, and that's been a week since his symptoms started. So like we don't, we know, it feels like there's symptoms now. Before there were ideas, now there's symptoms. And what Debbie's pointing to, so nobody's saying that's not happening. Nobody's saying that he's not having those symptoms. Nobody's saying that. But what interests me about what Debbie's saying is she had anxiety about something that wasn't happening. Right? So there's no way that Debbie could have been experiencing Richard having asthma, because when she was having that anxiety, Richard didn't have an asthma attack. So, you know, yes, she's experiencing her memory of a bad asthma attack he had a year ago. Yes, she's experiencing her own fear of, oh my goodness, this could be really serious. But in that moment, Richard was fine. Richard was fine. So Debbie's anxiety about the coronavirus wasn't coming from the coronavirus. It could only have been coming from Debbie's thinking and fearful thinking about the coronavirus. No different to my excitement about what's going to happen when this passes. It's no different in a way. Feels like there can be difference, but my excitement of, oh my goodness, this is gonna, you know, this is like as if there's going to be some heaven on earth or something. This wonderful, everyone's going to be together and connected, and you know, everyone's going to be appreciating the free space and walking on the beach and all that. And I don't know that that's going to even, I don't know that that's even going to happen, because we don't know what's happening right now. But my excitement and my dream and my sort of fairy tale vision is being created in the same way as Debbie's anxiety is being created in the same way. It's just different. I'd rather have my story, you know. That's how it feels. It feels like that's nicer. It feels like it's nicer to experience this like wonder of how we would love it to be. But the creation of the experience is created in the same way. A different content of thinking that has a different expression of a feeling. One being exciting, maybe butterflies in the stomach, and one being anxiety, which, you know, brings on something else. A friend of mine, very young husband had a heart attack last week, quite serious one. And then it turns out, you know, that where he's working, they had been talking, he works to do with the Heathrow Airport, and there's been lots of talks about all these redundancies, and they could see something's happening with travel, and I think all the panic and whatever, you know, or whether that is true, but, you know, then he had a heart attack. It's like, oh my goodness, like how powerful our thinking can be, that it actually can, you know, lower our own immune systems, or it can leave us open for our own sort of biology and chemistry following on from that can create all sorts of things. Like, it's so powerful, our thinking. And nobody will know whether he was going to have a heart attack anyway. Nobody will know that had he got a rise and had he been given a job and given a promotion, would he still have had that heart attack? So there's going to be people who are going to sort of look at it like, oh, well, that's come because he was all panicked and worried. But we don't know. But we can guess, and that's what we do. We can make something up. And I can make something up, which is how I think it is, and Steve might make something else up, and Debbie might make something else up.
What I would like to offer this out to the guys on the call for maybe the last 10 minutes or something is can we help you with something? Is there something that's challenging you around what's going on? Is there something you'd like to discuss? This call is all for you guys.
Amanda, can you hear me?
Hi, Estelle. Yeah, I can hear you.
I was trying to speak, but I didn't know I had to type on the little microphone symbol there.
Yeah, so that's mute. So yeah, so that's we can all hear you now. Welcome, Estelle.
Thank you. I have to say it's a lovely experience to be home with the coronavirus. I think we had the symptoms as well. And when we had this fever and cough and other symptoms, I really suddenly felt like a massive burst of love suddenly. And, you know, during the 3P conference in October, we said, you know, we with the understanding, we come across understanding that it is important to live in the now. And suddenly I felt like, oh my God, you know, all the time I've been wasting before this understanding, where I wasn't in the now and embracing the now and being able to appreciate it now is just incredible. And that it's really touching.
Estelle, was that the first time in October? You're talking about the Viva event in Spain, aren't you?
Yes, the Viva event. Yes, that was my first time coming across the 3P.
So do you think that what you heard there, and I'm interested to know what you heard, do you think is that what you're saying, that's been helpful for you?
Oh, yes. Life-changing. Life-changing.
Can you share that? Can you share something that you heard at that conference or wherever, whatever it was that happened for you? Can you give us an example?
Yes, the first thing is what you said earlier at the beginning of the video call. It was about understanding that we all live different reality. So it was already understanding that, yes, we don't have to respond to our thoughts, and we don't have to act upon them, but just to be curious about them, and to understand that we all live different realities. And so this was incredible. And so to be able to detach myself from my emotions and my thoughts, and to look at them with curiosity, and to not engage with them, but just like to be curious about them, and not to have to believe in them, was very life-changing.
Wow, that's beautiful, Estelle. So well put, and your whole face lit up. You know, your face came alive. You got a beautiful smile. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Thanks.
But it's so true. Thank you. Anybody else has got anything that they'd like to share?
Hello?
Hello, Lynn?
No, sorry, my camera isn't working on my PC, so I can't show my face. I'm not trying to hide it, so I can't show it. I just think it's interesting about how people were reacting to it all. The difference between the people who I would say have a cup half full and a cup half empty, and how so many people are seeing all the good sides of it, and how so many people are seeing all the bad and the difficulties of it. I personally am, mine's always full, so I'm just trying to deal with it on a day-to-day basis, and I'm not too worried. I'm just more concerned about the rest of my family. My granddaughter's poorly, but we don't think it's coronavirus. But they're all very worried because they have a grandfather living with them who is very poorly anyway, without getting the coronavirus. So those are mainly our concerns at the moment.
And what we're talking about, Lynn, or anybody else on the call, is there anybody on the call who hasn't got a clue what we're talking about? Is any of this going over anybody's heads when we're talking?
Or maybe even thinks that we're being quite dismissive. You're not taking this serious enough.
Alice is off for dinner, so she's sending her love to everybody. She's had enough.
I'll just say something. Thank you. What just came to me is when you sort of said we're here for you guys. I think it's very clear with what we're talking about tonight is the natural resilience of everybody. Everybody I've sort of met out in the streets and what have you, it's like everybody is there for you guys, you know, everybody. It's like sharing toilet roll, and do you know what I mean? It's just everybody is their true being at times like this, and it's wonderful to see.
Thanks, Sarah. It is, isn't it? That community is really lovely. Even the fact of like these kind of things happening, you know, it is mind blowing for me that I didn't really think about those people in China. I really can say I'd heard about it, but I don't think I got curious about it. Like what they've been going through, it hadn't really grabbed my attention until a little while ago. Like it wasn't in my, not that I didn't care, it just wasn't in my awareness. I mean, sometimes I think I live under a rock anyway, you know, and out here I don't have like English TV or news or whatever, but it wasn't in my awareness until it was in my awareness. And then when it was in my awareness, there was a sudden urge to want to know everything and learn everything and look everywhere. But that wasn't there before. And that doesn't make it bad or wrong. It just wasn't there. You know, I was so into, you know, the last few weeks I was into sharing this stuff in schools with the iHeart program. So we were setting up this new pilot, and we had it set up with Claire, who's on the call, 36 children ready to receive this iHeart curriculum, learning about how their thinking and feeling system works. And that's where my awareness was at. You know, and suddenly that was all shifted. It was closed down, and I got so curious with what was going on, and the same I suppose with Italy and now Spain. But it wasn't there for me. It wasn't a concern. It didn't exist, if you like, in my world. So something that wasn't there is suddenly at the forefront. You know, none of us knew a couple of weeks ago. Maybe we did. Maybe we had an idea a couple of weeks ago, but a month ago, none of us knew this. So I can't tell you, like somebody was saying earlier, how I'm going to be feeling, because I don't know who I'm going to hear about tomorrow that's caught it or has died from it or has something has happened. I have no clue where or how I'm going to be feeling in 10, any of us can get a phone call in 5 minutes. But what I do know, what I really know from being exposed to this understanding, is that I really see it to be true that my feelings are not coming from anything that I'm going to hear or from anything happening to myself or anybody around me, that my feelings are going to be coming from my thinking about that. Like that is sinking in for me, that my feelings 100% with no exception to the rule are coming from my thinking, from thought in the moment, and not from what is happening.
Yeah. And that is something that I didn't know. That's something that I wasn't aware of. I was convinced it was an open and shut case, that how I felt came from the outside world. So all I needed to do to feel good was to sort the outside world. And a metaphor that comes to my mind, which is what you were saying, Amanda, about we don't know how we're going to feel in 1 minute or 10 minutes or in 2 days' time, because we're in this constant change of, it's in this flow. But today we've had, in beautiful Essex, we've had grey and rain most of the day. And yesterday it was beautifully sunny. But regardless of what the weather is, there's a part of the sky that's untouched by the weather. There's a part of the sky that's above the weather. And so that's what we're pointing to within us. I'm going to get sad, upset, concerned, excited, happy, joyous. I'm going to have a whole array of experience, but there's part of me that's untouched by the experience. That's this innate well-being, this innate resilience, just there. It's untouched by what I'm thinking and feeling. And that's what we're pointing to with you guys, because it's not part of you, it is you.
And that's such a big point, Steve. What we're not pointing to is that you should be okay about this. Like, we're not pointing to that you should be okay no matter what happens. What we would love to do, and we're going to host a few of these conversations, so we want to invite you back to join us next, on the next ones over the next sort of couple of weeks. We're going to try and work out what is the best time or days for people. But we want to point to where our feelings are coming from. And even this, because it feels like the whole world is experiencing this, that it must be this coronavirus. Even with something which is pretty serious, it doesn't get more serious. It might do, but this is as serious as we've seen in a pandemic. I've never been in a pandemic before. So we want what we want to do is offer what we have had the gift of. And I know lots of you on this call have already had an introduction to that. If you have, we want to offer a space to deepen that understanding. For those people who this is new to, we would love to introduce you to that. The way it seems to work within our psychological system might not be the way it truly works. That's where I want to finish off, is that what I got to see was that I believed that, like Steve, I believed that my feelings came from things outside of me, like situations, circumstances, events, world events, and people, and when I got to see, like, oh my God, that is not the way it works. My feelings are only ever coming from my thinking about other people, the circumstances, the situations, and the events. That was life-changing for me.
It allows a real freedom of mind. And that's kind of, I think, a nice place to wrap up for us to maybe link on to the next call, which is, well, what's there? What is there when our mind is settled and clear? What is there when we do understand this?
Because I would love to know, of those people who are on this call, do you think having an understanding of how the principles behind our creation of experience, do you think having a sense of that has been helpful for you in situations like this? Can anyone just kind of, I don't know, raise your hand if you think that this has been helpful?
I don't know if they can see me. Yes.
You think that for maybe for other people, having an understanding of how this works, would you say that you've had an easier, an easier experience, or you've really experienced your peace of mind? Because that's what we want to do. We want to be able to share this for people maybe who have never heard this before, and just maybe this next couple of weeks, people might have the time to listen. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop the recording, and then I'm going to open it up for everybody just to say everything. So I'm going to do that right now. Thank you to everybody who's on this call, and anybody who is listening on the recording. Keep a note on the Serendipity Experience Facebook page, and I will put comments on there, or just call me. You can call me or call Steve about future calls. And my number is 0034 646 816 625 if you want to join any of our other calls. And Steve, how can people get hold of you?
Sure, my email, I think, has actually come up on my photo. Not sure if it is. It looks like it's there. It's Stephen with a PH at performance-coach.co.uk. Or please call me. My number's 077 394 15396.
Cool. And then we're going to do a few of these calls. So I'm going to stop that recording